Welcome.
Welcome.
Housewives of True Crime.
How are you doing today, Tabitha?
Oh, well, it's homecoming week
Hot damn.
since it's coming out on Monday and homecoming is Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So I have succumbed to all the Texas traditions. Call
Yeah.
me a Texan. Okay.
This is when they do the mum thing,
right.
all that shit. You got to make that.
Yes. So she got the poster. It's called the homecoming proposal. Had no idea. Let's call it that.
Oh,
And
yeah, it's a big thing.
They're really prepping those guys for the real proposal.
Yeah. I think that's a good thing.
I do too. I actually am like down with it because it forces them to be creative and to do something for, the person they want to ask. And so I'm in it. I'm in for it.
My husband could use a little tutorial.
The thing that I do think is bonkers is this whole mum garter thing. So the girls buy this thing that goes on the boy's arm, not like I just remember we bought the corsage or whatever, the thing that goes on like
boutonniere,
right? The jacket. I think I even have to do something like that. I haven't even thought about it. But anyways, and this stuff is pricey. My girlfriend had to buy her junior son one for the girl, and it goes up in price for like the older you get. Hers was $450.
That's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. Ridiculous.
No, when it gets to like keep up with the Joneses and you got it, whatever. Listen, that's lame.
My girlfriend was like, "Do you want me to make yours for you?" I was like, "She's from Texas." I was like, "That's amazing. Yes,
yeah,
please."
Yeah, that's cuckoo bananas.
Yeah, it's cuckoo bananas. Like, what the heck? I don't even spend that on ever. Like, I don't even spend it on a dress. Like, no can do barbecue.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I am real excited about because your daughter is about as perfect as they come. Like she's just got that perfect high school happening look. I was a little awkward as a freshman in high school. I didn't go to very many dances. I think I went to one and I went home with somebody else because he didn't like me. Not because I was like that cool.
She definitely has a much different freshman experience.
Yeah.
Dude.
So I am loving.
Yeah, we're like both living vicariously through
Totally. Totally.
This all seems so
I
fun.
would just want her to like sit down and tell us about it. Like, what is it like?
What is
to
it
just
like
be the cool girl?
To be liked.
Yeah.
To not have people bullying you. And yes. Oh my God.
Listen, I went to back to school night for my son last night.
Yes.
Yeah. I got all the old school day feels because I made the mistake of going to dinner with some friends right before.
Oh my God. Did you have a margarita or something? And you
I
like
did.
alcohol?
I just was going to have a beer. That was it. But then they had my favorite sake, cold sake there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I needed to have some of that.
Oh my gosh.
And so then my husband and I roll in late, of course, like it's already started. And the teacher, of course, stops and gives us the welcome.
Oh. If you were watching on YouTube, you'll see the face that Gretchen's making.
It's a face you can picture Gwyneth Paltrow making.
Right.
Like one of those faces. Okay.
Yeah.
So we were like, shit. Yeah.
You're like, sorry, fashionably late.
And yeah. And my husband is, okay. So then I'm feeling, can't go sit in his desk. I got to stand in the back of the classroom. And then at the end of the chit chat, my husband was like, well, should we wait around and talk to the teacher? I was like, hell no.
No, dude.
First of all, she's going to smell sake on my breath and know why I was late.
I know.
I know they can read me.
She actually is honestly probably going like, oh, she made the right decision. I know. I was actually late to a meeting for my kids' basketball today. Not today. Like 2 days ago. I couldn't find the damn gym. It's like high school. So now I'm like, I don't know where the heck I'm going. But yeah. I went to the gym, but it wasn't in the gym. And so anyways, and then it was kind of funny because the girl was like, come on down. You're the next contestant on The Price is Right.
You're like, if you only knew, bitch.
I was like,
I am the next contestant on The
I
Price
know.
is Right.
I
2
was like-
times
I
on the
was like,
stage.
Actually,
Okay.
I
2.
was. She was like, of course you were.
Yeah.
I was like, I like you already.
Yeah.
So that was fun. But I am so over having meetings at the going to 3 kids, 3 back to school nights or whatever they're called, it's a lot. And then
Yeah.
and then you find out when you're there that for the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks that you've been in school and your kid says they did not have homework.
Oh, yeah. Every time you find out they have had homework.
They actually did. And,
Yeah. And you're like a bad person for not going through their backpacks.
Oh, yeah. Then I went through the backpack and I
Yeah.
saw all these crumpled papers in the bottom of the backpack. And I
Of
was
course.
like,
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'm failing as a parent.
Yeah. I'm sure my kid is lucky that mommy had her buzz on at back to school night and I didn't go through his desk. Because usually that's what I do, where I find all their shit and bring it home.
Oh, my God. I know.
I'm like, what's up,
Oh,
kiddo? Yeah.
it's one of those.
It's a thing. I've been shamed by friends in the hood for not going through their backpacks regularly.
I'm on it now.
But it's scary in there. I mean, one of my kids is like a fucking raccoon. You never know what it's going to get. You got to put gloves on to go through that.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Gross.
Yeah.
All right.
You got a crime?
I do. Unfortunately, I do. And it starts in okay, listen.
Starting off wrong already, are we?
The way it's spelled is not the way it's said.
English is hard.
Well, listen, it's spelled Haverhill, okay? Haverhill,
Okay.
New Hampshire, but they call it Haverhill
Okay.
because they have some wicked accent
Okay.
up in New England or something. I don't know.
I call it Haytown.
Hey there, New Hampshire. It is a small town, 4,600 residents. If you Google if Haverhill, New Hampshire is a nice place to live, the answer is yes, it actually is. It has beautiful views, lots of hiking and outdoor recreation, big forests. Sounds absolutely like a great place to go on a little getaway.
Okay.
It's very quaint. It's covered in bridges, which, I love bridges. I hate going on them, but I love the look of them.
Yeah, I love the look of them, except there's the whole trolls or they're haunted or something.
Oh, really?
It's a little scary if you're a kid.
Listen, I am terrified of going on bridges, but I think they're there's the most beautiful bridges in this world,
Yeah.
I don't know. And actually the oldest bridge still standing is there. It was built in 1829. It's called the Haverhill Bath Bridge. Okay, so they also have a Christmas tree farm, where you can cut down your own Christmas trees. So cute.
I think most of America has those. They think we're stupid, but those are not common in California. We didn't grow up with those.
No, and I've never seen one in Texas. So
yeah,
I'm sure there's
in
one
Dallas.
somewhere.
I'm sure there's places.
Yeah, I don't know. All right. Well, it is also the home of a 20-year-old missing persons mystery. So I am going to warn you now, if you do not like unsolved cases, this is not the case for you.
I don't.
I know
I'm
you
warned.
Don't.
Okay.
You are warned. But you have to listen.
Okay. I'll listen for you.
So
I'm going to solve it.
I freaking hope you do. Now, you may have heard of this case because it's one that has had a lot of coverage. It is the case of 2004 disappearance of 21-year-old Maura Murray. You recall?
I know that people have asked us to do this case for
5 years.
Buttload of times. Yeah. But you've always had an attachment to it.
I know.
So I do think it is interesting. We circle back to the ones that are
because I listened to this other podcast years ago that has more than 100 episodes on this damn case. Okay. So finally somebody else asked us, and I can't remember who, sorry, they didn't write it down. And because seriously, we get it asked a lot, but I was like, let's do it.
And I like that persistence.
Yeah, I do too. If you guys asked us before to do a case,
Ask us again.
Ask us again. That doesn't involve children, okay? Because some people still don't get the memo.
Yeah.
Since this story has no ending, and it also has one with many, many speculative scenarios. So I'm going to try to keep it to the facts that we know, a little bit of theories, and some of my own opinions, because after all, you guys know I'm opinionated. And Gretchen, feel free to throw yours in there also.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to say that if you are interested in this case and you have not listened to the other podcasts, there are some that are really good. The prosecutors have a 4-part episode. Theirs is great. There's also a whole entire 100 and something episode of Missing Maura Murray. And then her sister just came out also with a podcast, which I'll date a lot of, because I think if you want to get true facts, you go to the closest source, which is her family. So let's get started.
Okay.
Maura Murray grew up in Hanson, Massachusetts, in a little town about 25 miles south of Boston. Her parents have the accent. I've listened to her dad, or her dad has the accent. Her mom's no longer with us. Her parents, Fred and Lori Murray, were married in 1968, and soon after, Maura's older brother, Fred Jr., known as Freddie, was born. Fred Sr. worked in nuclear medicine, and Lori, she was a nurse. They wanted a big family, but it would be a few more years before the sisters were born. Kathleen first, then Julie, then Maura. The Murrays divorced, unfortunately, or fortunately, because Lori remarried and had another baby, little brother Curtis, who was born like 5 years after Maura. And by the way, even though these kiddos had different dads, Fred Sr. like took that little boy as like, he was like, I don't care that he's like got a different dad. He took him camping, taught him, baseball. Like, I'm like, dude, Fred,
I love that. I always hate it when you see like I mean, I've had that situation in my own life where it's like the dad comes up and picks up his biological child.
Yeah.
And then the little brother from the second marriage is left there. And it's like, wouldn't it be great if,
you just
took them
one
both?
big happy family. I know, right? Because they're just children.
Yeah, they're just children. They don't know. They just want to go camping.
Yeah. So Fred Sr., he was an athlete back in his day. He ran marathons and he was a self-taught tennis instructor. And Maura inherited the Murray athletic gene. She played a ton of sports, soccer, softball, basketball, but her passion was running. During her sophomore year in high school, she was selected as the Boston Globe All-Scholastic in cross country, which is super big deal. She qualified for the U.S. National Scholastic Outdoor Championship, and she finished 33rd in the entire country.
Damn.
By the end of she's got it going on. By the end of her high school career, she was ranked one of the top runners in Massachusetts, breaking several school records. And not only was she athletic, she was brilliant. She graduated 4th in her high school class, and she almost got a perfect score on her SATs. So she probably wouldn't have been our friend.
Yeah, probably not. Listen, she would have ran past me. I just had my girls in the back of the car yesterday, and they had to run this mile for PE. I guess they test them.
Oh, yeah.
And my daughter's like, Mom, they have 10 minutes. Or she says it's 10 minutes. Like, to be verified, okay?
Yeah.
But she's like, I had 20 seconds left. I almost died.
Oh, my God.
I'm like, well, that is fast. And so the other one, she's like, did you pass? Because they have PE at different times.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, yeah. She's like, okay, what's your time?
Yeah.
She's like, it's just past time. I'm like, okay, so
I'm not
you
really
didn't pass.
sure you did.
It's fine if you didn't. And then they were like, yeah, she's like, my friends were asking me who would care if I passed and who wouldn't. And I said my dad would be really mad if I didn't pass the mile and my mom wouldn't care at all. I'm like, well, that's true.
True. Yeah. Well, I'm assuming if Maura ever had kids, she would probably make her kids pass with like
totally
real fast.
Mm-hmm.
She was humble, she was unassuming, and she was really kind. Her sister calls her an introvert, but a very funny one, which is totally my jam. Reminds me of my son. She also had these really big dimples that gave her this like really cute, like distinct look. She was a total disco biscuit. Julie Murray, her older sister, had been accepted into West Point, which is a United States military academy. Are you familiar with it?
I am. Fancy Pants Military Academy.
It is fancy pants. They
Mm-hmm.
only accept about 12% of their, I think like of like the top 12 or something. I mean, it's like, it's super, super hard to get into. And then once you get in, you have to be in the military, which kind of like blows, in my opinion.
You think they have to, when they go to that school, they have to do their own laundry and
Yes,
like iron
dude.
it to get it all crisp? Or
Yes.
you think they like get to send it out?
No, I don't know actually, but I think from how Julie described it on her podcast is like you don't have any control over your life once you're there. Like it is to be there to be as good as you can be, get up early and do what you have to do, and then you go straight.
I think prison sounds like more fun.
Into being in the military. I mean, it is. I think it's for very, very particular people. And I applaud you if you can go there and you can do that. I think it's awesome. And that was totally Julie's fit. Maura followed in her footsteps because she, looked up to her older sister and she also got accepted. So it was pretty amazing that both of these girls got accepted into this prestigious university. Also, by the way, they got in before 9/11 and then 9/11 happened while they were there. And Julie kind of says something on a Fox podcast, like the Fox True Crime podcast. She says that it changed because then it was like, now you're going to war. Before 9/11, like you didn't even think about going to war when you were going to join that military. You just
okay. So at that point, she would have been about our age, right? Because we were college age when 9/11 happened. And before that, we were kids when Desert Storm was the war before that.
Yeah. Like children. I remember writing to these guys like when I was 9 or something,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can understand that point of view.
During her second year of West Point, Maura made the decision to leave. According to Julie, the military just wasn't a good fit for her sister. And like I said, this is when 9/11 happened. And so it was like, now it got a little bit more crazy. There's also a little bit more to this story. During a trip to Fort Knox, Maura shoplifted from the base exchange, which is like kind of like Target, And there was no reason to shoplift. She had the money. She stole like a $5 eyeliner or something. It was like, just kind of weird. And she got caught and she faced some disciplinary actions for it.
Yeah, that's really surprising. I mean, I think that sometimes people make mistakes, but that's really surprising. Being in the whole military academy thing seems very out of character.
Yes, it is. And it's like part of their honor code violation. And like not a lot of people get kicked out for that.
Was she really? Oh, yeah. Honor code. That's so official. Yeah. She must have been really rebelling. Maybe she was feeling some kind of way.
So that's what her sister thinks. Her sister thinks she did it because she really just kind of didn't want to be there. And that was like a way that she felt like maybe she could leave. And it kind of worked. Like she didn't fully get kicked out, but she was like, peace out before they kicked her out.
Okay.
Also, let me tell you, while at West Point and beyond, and I hate to say this, but I think this has to do with some of like the ongoing speculation, okay? But Maura also had an eating disorder.
Okay.
And so she had a little bit of struggles, like just personally. And that also could be due to the fact that it's the only thing that she felt she could have control in her life.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah. And maybe that's the same thing with stealing that like thing. It's like she probably just wasn't meant for the military or that kind of rigor. And so she kind of rebelled to it. But she then took herself to another very challenging course of nursing. She got into UMass Amherst in the nursing program, which is also very rigorous, but maybe a little bit more freeing in other ways. And she decided,
very admirable.
I know, she decided to follow in her mom's footsteps. Just before she left, though, however, West Point, she met a upperclassman named Bill Rauch, who was actually part of the honor board. And they got a liking to each other and they started to date. From what we know about Bill and Maura's relationship, they seemed like a typical long distance kind of couple. There was no abuse. They saw each other a lot when Bill was at West Point, but then he got stationed in Oklahoma, so that was a little bit further. And her sister says they had they kind of just broke up. I mean, she was 21 when she went missing. She was 20, 18, 19 when they started dating. He did cheat on her, which really Julie did not find fascinating. So she didn't kind of like the guy. But Maura decided to take him back. There's nothing really that would raise eyebrows on this guy, okay? While Maura was at UMass, she drove a black 1996 Saturn sedan. That was her dad's.
I remember those Saturn cars.
Yeah, I do remember.
They were always maroon.
They were always maroon. You are so right.
Yeah.
I know. Actually, when I found out that she was driving a black one, I was like, I don't actually know if I ever saw a black Saturn.
Yeah.
Well, this car was a piece of junk, okay? It wasn't even that old, but it was a hunk of junk. And her dad came out because he was like, you can't be driving this car. It was spurting oil out of its muffler pipe or something. It was working on 3 cylinders and it's a 4-cylinder car. I don't know, something like that. So anyways, on Saturday, February 7th, 2004, Fred drove to UMass to go car shopping with Maura. He had taken out $4,000 to buy her a new car, but unfortunately, they did not find a suitable car that day for Maura. Fred knew that she might have to drive her hunk of junk somewhere. So he was like, hey, if you have an emergency and you have to go anywhere in this car, stuff a rag up the tailpipe so you won't get pulled over. He said he's heard that before. It's probably a wise tale that would work from getting pulled over, but that's what he told her.
I don't think that is good advice.
I don't think it's good advice either. So don't try that at home, okay?
Yeah.
After car shopping that day, they had dinner. Maura dropped Fred off at his hotel and went back to campus in Fred's fairly new car. Maura went to a dorm room gathering on campus that night, and after the gathering ended, Maura opted to not walk back the short distance to her room, but drive Fred's newish car to his motel. No one really knows why she decided to do this, but on the way, she crashed the car head-on into a guardrail, and it caused significant damage to Fred's car, totaled it.
Yeah.
This is a really strange occurrence, not only for us as internet sleuths, but even for Maura's family. Why was she taking the car back at 3 a.m. to her dad? Why wouldn't she just keep it like they planned? Somehow she got out of it. She didn't, the police came. No one kind of questioned her on it. And they didn't see, there was nothing in the report that said she was drunk or anything like
she was
that.
Impaired. Yeah. Okay.
It doesn't mean she wasn't, right?
Okay.
It
Fair.
could just mean that the police officer that pulled up felt bad for her and, drove her to where she needed to go and said, I'm glad you hurt only your car. I don't know.
Okay.
So Fred, the insurance is going to pay for his car. He said he was not super mad at her, but she was really mad at herself, right? She was her own worst critic. And she was super, super upset that she damaged her dad's new car. He told Maura that she shouldn't have been driving, and she's lucky she didn't get a DUI, which makes me think she was drinking, but we don't really know. What happened after this car accident is what is really the mystery. On Monday night, February 9th, 2004 at 7.
Okay, wait, let me just get this straight though first.
Yes.
So she gets in the car accident and she called her dad.
She didn't call her dad. The police came.
The police came.
They took her to where she needed to go. The dad got the car, and then the dad got a rental car the next day. Sorry, I didn't kind of finish that. The dad got the the car's totaled. The dad got a rental car the next day. The car insurance is going to take care of the car. The dad goes back. I'm sure he's kind of pissed enough. He's like, dude, don't drive your car. We'll figure out a car later. Now I have to deal with my own car situation, right?
Right.
So he leaves on Sunday. Monday. Now it's Monday.
Okay.
February 9th, 2004 at 7:27. There was a 911 call. First of two 911 calls came in at 7:27 to the Haverhill. I do not have that accent. New Hampshire Dispatch Center. The first was from a local resident named Faith Westman, who was reporting that she heard a loud noise outside, and when she looked out, she could see a car facing the wrong direction in the eastbound lane of Route 112. Faith lived right on a sharp corner with no lights and feared the worst. As she peeked out her window, she told the dispatch that what she was seeing. She said that besides the car, she could see a man smoking a cigarette. While Faith was watching the scene, she also saw a bus pull up next to the stranded car. The driver was Faith's neighbor, Butch Atwood. He was on his way home from driving students to a ski trip. At this time, Faith could also see a young woman. When Butch stopped to ask if the woman needed any help, the young woman said no. She said she had already called AAA. Well, this young woman we now suspect is Maura Murray. Butch paused for a second when he asked her if she needed help because there was no cell service. So he knew that when she said she called AAA already, it was a lie. So he said, okay, well, do you want to come with me? You can come to my house and wait for the tow truck. And she declined. Butch then went to his house and called 911. That call came in at 7:42. It took the first responding officer, Haverhill Police Sergeant Cecil Smith, 3 minutes to get to the scene after Butch placed his call. There's a lot of timeline situations here where Cecil claims that he went to look at the car before actually logging that he got there. So he says that he got there a couple minutes early, but from what his logs say is he got there at 7:46.
Okay. At this point, I'm thinking Butch sounds like a nice guy, but I also am glad that I would want my daughter to lie to a man named Butch and say that she'd already called 911, right?
I think about this, yes, because he's in a school bus. No, he's a school bus driver, so you would think that he's vetted. But I've also seen people that can buy school buses.
Right.
So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've seen some real sketch ones.
And it is in the middle of nowhere. It's not in the middle of nowhere where no one drives by. And honestly, Faith's house is really close to where the accident happened, right there. So there were people, quote unquote, around-ish. Okay. But it is dark, really dark, and it is really freaking cold because it's New England and there is snow on the ground.
But yeah.
New Hampshire. New Hampshire. We're learning the
capitals?
The capitals right now.
Oh, yes. What's the capital of New Hampshire?
Concord.
Oh my God.
Yes. And you know how I taught my kid that? I was like, okay, New Hampshire, you always want new shoes and you want some Converse.
Good one.
Yeah. Doesn't really make sense, but kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, so when Cecil Smith gets there, he sees the black Saturn, but there's no one there. Through the window, he could see a box of red wine behind the driver's seat. And then he saw some red liquid on the driver's side door and on the roof of the car, which he thinks is wine. Everybody kind of thinks is wine. I kind of question that, but we don't know. Maura is nowhere to be seen. The doors were locked of her car, which also has some speculation in there with if it's locked or if it wasn't, if the doors were open, whatnot. But he claims the doors were locked and the airbags were deployed, the windshield was cracked, and there was a rag stuffed in the tailpipe. Mind you, this is about 4 hours from where Maura goes to school.
Okay.
Sergeant Smith looked for any sign of a young woman that walked away from the crash, but did not see any footprints in the snow or any other indication that Maura left on foot. The rag in the tailpipe caused a lot of speculation for many, many years that someone tried to sabotage Maura's car, but Fred is like, dude, I'm the one that told her to put that in there. There's some thought that maybe it wasn't in there, and then when she got in that accident, tried to start the car again, she then stuffed it in there trying to start it or something like that. Police did a quick search of the area, but they didn't find anything, and they didn't contact the owner of the vehicle. They just towed it. Had they contacted the owner of the vehicle, they would have pulled up Fred's info, right? And had they known that Fred is a man and they are actually looking for a woman with some sort of urgency, like where the heck did she go? I think that maybe this case could have been done a little different. But you can't also blame them because like their thing was people leave their cars on the side of the road all the time,
especially in the snow.
And dude, like I saw a car on the side of the road today, like in some like where it shouldn't even have been, and I don't think anybody thinks twice about it, you know?
Yeah.
So unfortunately, it would be a couple days before they got in contact with Maura's family. So why in the heck was Maura in New Hampshire when she just got back from winter break and she was supposed to be in Massachusetts and she wasn't supposed to be driving that freaking car?
Right.
So let's back up to earlier in that day. Maura turned in a homework assignment at UMass. She had worked on it until 3 in the morning. Actually, like 3:32, she turned it in. And her browser history shows that she was, working on her assignment, nursing school, maternity terms. And then also that she was searching directions to New Hampshire and Vermont. Later in the day, she called a ski resort that she had stayed at and an owner of a condo that her family had also stayed at in the past. Neither of these calls resulted in her booking anything at either of these places, but we can assume that, she's been there before. She wanted to get away. That's what I think. She probably didn't have enough money to book either of those places. So I don't know. Maybe she was like, I'll find something when I get there, Maura sent an email to her boyfriend who, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that she loved him and would talk to him later, but she didn't really feel like talking much that day, which I think would indicate that she was pretty stressed out.
And she didn't mention going on this.
She did not.
Vacay. Okay.
To anybody. Not ever.
Maybe she had a side bill.
Well, that has also been speculation also, but I don't think so. The problem also is like 2004, those like the logs on your cell phone are not as great as they are today. But we can see who she's calling in and out and checking her voicemail. And there wasn't any calls to any other random numbers. There's like nobody that you would think that, like no other guy, and there's no emails.
Sancho. Okay.
Yeah. And there's no text messages, and they didn't have Snapchat at the time, actually. So there's no like poof goes out in the universe.
Snapchat. Yeah. Okay.
Actually, I think like Facebook launched maybe the same day this happened.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the world was a little bit different, and text messaging didn't happen either. So it still was like you're checking your voicemails. You know, you don't even check those anymore. Or I don't,
annoying.
At least.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
don't leave one.
I know.
And I'll check it.
Mine's probably full. So anyway, she's like, you know, she says like, hey, I'll call you later. She does have like a couple kind of unanswered calls from him and her going back and forth. They play a little bit of phone tag. She sends an email to one of her professors, which also caused a lot of concern for her family and people in the internet world, because she says that there was a death in her family and she would be out for a couple days. Now, there was no death in her family, but also I'm like, it's a good excuse to get out of Dodge for a little bit, right?
Yeah. Buy yourself some time.
Yeah.
Sure.
She returned some clothes that she borrowed from a student that day. She packed a few things. She packed toiletries, her school books, her birth control pills, and some clothes, and her running shoes. She also was spotted on surveillance at 3:15 at an ATM withdrawing $280 in cash, which was almost all of what she had. She left about $20 in her bank account, but not a lot of money. I mean, maybe enough money to last you a couple days.
I used to only have $20 in my bank account on a regular basis.
When you're 21? Yes,
yeah.
We both did.
Yeah.
We were like,
you were like so stoked. I actually would get down to like $1. Like you would just pray that you could withdraw that last 20.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
She also went to the liquor store and she bought $40 in alcohol and recycled 79 cans to get about $3.40 or $3.95. So, in all this, she's on camera by herself.
Okay.
She then gets in her Saturn and heads north, and at 4:37, she checks her voicemail on her cell phone, and then 3 hours later, we get the first 911 call. So where'd she go? It's like,
you tell me.
I don't know. It's the biggest mystery, dude. The night of the crash, Maura's car was towed and it went into a personal garage of, like, I think the tow truck driver or something, right? And because you've got to think, this is a super, super small town, like very small town. There was a search warrant executed on the car and various evidence was removed and logged. And there was stuff that was in there that had Maura's name on it. But despite all these clues saying like the driver was like a college student and no one there knows where this college student is, her parents were not called for, I think, maybe not until the night of the 10th. Maura's older sister, Julie, was in the Army at this time and stationed several hours away. And she remembers, like, when she found out, she was like, dude, this is totally bananas, right?
Yeah.
She was in shock. She was panicked. She called her dad, who then tried to call the police. They weren't getting anywhere with the Haverhill Police Department. And so he drove out there in the middle of the night. Julie also tried to call and she hit the same roadblocks. When Fred got out to Haverhill, he thought that he was going to join the like search party. But unfortunately, he was the search party.
Oh no.
Both Julie and Fred were real upset about how the police handled Maura's case. From the initial like not getting to the family, not going to the press, not even telling police departments that were in neighboring areas that they have a missing woman. Fred arrived at dawn on February 11th, 2004. And when he realized that No one was searching for his daughter. He pretty much raised hell, to the point that I think that him and the Haverhill police did not get along for a long time. I think it's better now, but it's been 20 years.
Yeah.
So he was the only one looking for his daughter. And at Fred's insistence, New Hampshire finally got their fishing game to start searching for Maura, but not until 3 days later. The fishing game warden did bring out some dogs that were, like sniffing her scent, but they gave the dog a glove that was brand new from Maura's boyfriend, and her family's like, we don't even know if she ever wore that glove, despite there being like running shoes in there that really had her scent on it. So they were very frustrated with how police were not involving them in the investigation at all. Like, they thought that they should collaborate and make sure that, as many people were on the ground as possible. But remind you, there's 4 of them in the whole department.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, like, they could have expanded that. Like, they eventually did go to the state police, but also they could have called in the FBI because Maura was from a different state. And so it's interstate, but they never did. And on Julie's podcast, like, it's really, really like imperative that these police officers, if they're not withholding information, then they're just being total assholes. Like, and I can't imagine that the police have anything to do with this case, because that would be really weird with this girl just driving up there and then like a policeman like taking her. I don't know. Like, it's there are some theories to that.
I mean, could it just be the case that they made a mistake and they're covering for each other in some way, and so they're not going to give up other information because
yes,
it would put them in a bad light?
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
There's also this theory that there was another police officer involved and he's trying to cover up his tracks, like he was drunk that night and maybe hit Maura.
Yeah.
And then everybody's trying to cover for him. But there is some weird, there's a lot of weirdness in this case.
The no footprints thing is really
there's no footprints.
Bizarre to me.
Yes. So what some people say is if she was walking down the road, because there's so much traffic going on, you wouldn't see footprints. There was one possible sighting of somebody walking on the road 5 miles away, which could be her. But
she was a good walker.
She was a good walker. I know. And by the way, if the car was locked, which I think it was, she did take they didn't find the keys to the car. They did not find her cell phone. They did not find her wallet. So she took things with her. Okay. Like most families in missing persons cases, the family all comes together and they start searching for the victim. And that's what they did. Even Bill came out, and I think that this family has been relentless. Also, she explains that Facebook just came out. So it was a nice way for social media to get involved and people not just in like the immediate area to know that Maura was missing, but now like the whole world knew that Maura was missing. This has been like, I think, kind of a benefit and a curse, because there's lots of trolls. There's lots of freaking real weirdos that have some real weird theories that make no sense at all. And I think when you're reading that as a family member, it's pretty traumatizing.
Totally.
Everybody came except her mom. Her mom was going through cancer treatment and also had a broken ankle at the time. And then she also was like, I'll just stay back so that in case Maura calls our house phone, which we still had at that time, Something also happened really odd. When Bill was going through the airport security, he got a call on his phone. He missed it because it was like in the security thing, and there was a voicemail and what he thought was whimpering and sobbing. Bill thinks it's Maura. The police eventually, and I mean eventually, like a long time later, trace the call, and what they say, it came from a Red Cross calling card. And they were like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, none of that makes sense. So some and Bill think that it was Maura trying to reach out. However, Fred, Mara's dad, said he listened to it and he thinks it just sounds like static, he doesn't think it's anything, but who knows. What I learned from this case and other missing cases is your life will be picked apart after going missing. So, like the things that lead up to the disappearance, whether it's useful or not, will be examined under a microscope. As puzzle pieces are put together, oftentimes there's puzzle pieces that are just there that don't even go with the puzzle, right? Like just because she made a call to one friend doesn't mean anything based on everything doesn't mean anything really. I don't think because she had an eating disorder, she took off. I also don't think because she stole eyeliner 5 years ago or 4 years ago that has anything to do with it either. I don't really know why. I think something was stressing her out, and I think that's why she wanted to get away. I don't think that's why she's missing. I mean, I think that is why she's missing because she got in a car accident and one thing led to another, but I don't think that's,
well, it's amazing. I do think the public has a tendency. I think it's getting better, but I think for a long time, I mean, it was put up this person who was missing and they must have been perfect because they're missing,
Yeah.
And then when you do something like the case I did a couple weeks ago where you find out, oh, he was a college student that smoked pot, the tide turns.
I know.
And it's like he could still be a good kid who just happened to smoke pot on occasion.
I know. So that is kind of how it was, right? So once she's missing, then people start coming and saying oh, well, this happened. So another thing did happen recently to Maura, and she worked in the checking kids' IDs at the dorm.
Okay.
And she worked the night shift. Girlfriend seemed to stay up really late and have very little sleep, which also could be real hard on the body.
But you know what? I think that's part of having an eating disorder.
Oh, really?
It's very hard to sleep when you are hungry.
Well, this is also interesting because there's two things. One, she was at work and she was checking these IDs, and I don't know, 3 a.m. or something, she is sitting there comatose and crying, but doesn't say anything to anybody. And her supervisor was notified, and she went down there and she was like, come with me. Let me take you to your dorm room and get you to lay down. And she was like, I'll come in there with you. And she was like, no, my roommate is here, but she doesn't even have a roommate. So she was lying about that. And all she would say was, my sister, my sister. Well, earlier that day, her sister Kathleen had called her to tell her that she was getting out of rehab, and her boyfriend took her straight to the liquor store. So she had a relapse. But it doesn't seem like that would, for a 21-year-old, maybe, I don't think that would cause that much stress, but maybe it did. Maybe she's more empathetic than me. I don't know.
Maybe, but maybe that's just what it came out. So, I mean, if you're suffering from an eating disorder and you're under that much stress, you're in some kind of school situation you don't want to be. And maybe she has an eating disorder because something else happened to her at a younger age or something. I mean, I don't know, purely speculatory. Maybe it just comes out like that.
Yeah.
Maybe you just say whatever because you are just falling apart and you can't put it to words. She probably didn't even know why.
So there's another thing that happened. She actually got in trouble for it. Not this was in February. I think she got disciplined. She got caught, I think, in November maybe. But anyway, there was this credit card number going around the dorm room that kids were using to buy food, or she was using it to buy food, and it wasn't her credit card. And what I found is that she was using it to buy large amounts of food in the middle of the night, 3 a.m. And which is what she would do, is she would binge and then purge, right?
Yeah.
And so they caught her. They put like a sting together and they caught her like basically red-handed at 3 a.m. ordering pizza. And she was put on probation for that. And so like these things that she did, although really dumb.
Yeah.
I can imagine also she didn't want to, like, if you're using somebody else's credit card, you're kind of like, it's not really me. I'm not really the one like buying the pizza and eating the pizza, you know, like she had some inner struggles. And I think that's why some people think she just went out there to like walk off into the woods and die. I do not think that.
Yeah, that doesn't.
I don't think that. Like her family does not think that, and I know that's a really hard thing to think that somebody would do that. They said there's never been like she's never like mentioned suicide or talked about it or even like but then you know there's always like I don't know how many people do talk about it before they do something like that to themselves. The police really wanted to throw that down her dad's throat, but he is like, that is not what happened. Also, there's
no, it's really if there's no note.
I know.
I think a lot of people don't talk about. Sadly, a lot of people don't talk about suicide that commit suicide, like Twitch. But I think they leave a note.
Yeah. I think that also by like her taking her birth control and her books and just saying she was going to be out a couple days, like she was just on her way to like take a couple days.
Yeah.
I don't know why she didn't tell anybody. That's probably, we all need to learn from that because we all need to know that somebody's going somewhere. Like we're going to talk to a FBI investigator right after this, and that'll come out pretty soon for you guys. But his number one thing is like, dude, you do not go anywhere alone. Like, ever.
Dude, I almost had a heart attack the other day because I was trying to get a hold of my friend, and you know we have this goddamn heat wave. It's like normal now, heat temperature in California. But she was not answering the text, and she goes out running.
Oh, man, I don't like
and
that.
And I'm like, you guys think I'm so extra for saying share your damn location, but she's probably passed out in the gutter somewhere from heat exhaustion.
You used to walk all the time by yourself too, and I was like, always like, dude, girl, it's dark outside, and you're out there.
I know I don't do it anymore, so don't try to catch me.
So there are a lot of different theories. There's a lot of kind of weird coincidences, if you say. Over the 20 years, the Murray family has had a lot of people come out to help them. They brought equipment, and PIs and retired law enforcement have all come out just to give their support. And I think they do it for like free for them. People want to know what happened to Maura. The people also found that a lot of the people that they have come out, the internet people, the like just the Joe Schmoes that just care about this case, they have found things. Family also found that the police were not interviewing neighbors that could have known something. They also found recently a number. Julie got hold of some case files, and there was a number found in the car that never was called. And she's like, 19 years later, I called it.
And?
Never called. She's not really saying much about it, actually. So it could lead to something. She's also scared of like internet trolls. And the second she says anything, like she's just like, I don't want people to be, bombarded, because they do that. The initial guy, Cecil Smith, he was under the internet microscope for a lot of years. He unfortunately... I was
going to ask about that.
Yeah, he took his own life, actually.
Really?
Years and years later. And from what I heard is the guy is like this, like the sweetest man. I have no idea. I don't know why he was such an asshole and didn't want to help the family like he should have. But he got early onset of dementia and he ended his life. And that's what they say the reason was. I don't know. There's a handful of plausible theories that Julie goes into detail about on her podcast, Media Pressure. One of them is the Loon Mountain 3. It's about these 3 young guys that worked at a nearby ski resort. They were not from the area, but they were living there to, for ski season.
Mm-hmm.
And the day after Maura disappeared, all 3 of them did not show up to work. Could be a weird coincidence, but it could be, the theory is like maybe they picked her up on the side of the road and said, let's go party, and something happened and they had to get rid of her and they didn't go to work the next day. Kind of far-fetched, but kind of possible.
Yeah.
An FBI profiler that has talked about this says it's actually an interesting theory. People also have theorized that she was killed by Israel Keys, but I don't think that either. It's not his MO. Or like a girl walking down the road that he wasn't.
He didn't have an MO, Tab.
Oh, I know.
That was what was
the craziest thing.
He is the scariest motherfucking serial killer out there that there is. If you have not listened to the episode on Israel Keys, he was so incredibly random.
Well, I mean,
but people follow him in like a real sick, fucked up way. Mm-hmm. And they know where he has been all over the country. And so I would think there would be something like pretty substantial. Like he actually was in that area during this time. So he was. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Okay. I'm leaning towards that. I still have nightmares about him. I'm sorry I ever did that case. I only did it because my hair chick, Shelby, told me to do it.
I know, but we barely ever do cases like that. So that was surprising.
That's why.
I know. There's also a theory that she was like, F this life. I'm going to Canada and I'm going to live my best life. I don't think that. Julie points out on that Fox True Crime podcast that Maura was wicked smart, but not necessarily street smart. She doesn't think she could have done that. There's also a theory that I kind of lean towards. There's this A-frame house that was neighbors with Butch. And the guy in that house said some stuff about Maura, or supposedly said some stuff about Maura. And when they asked to search his house, he said no. Years later, Fred was sent a knife by someone stating that it came from this guy's glove box, and it was the weapon that killed his daughter. Fred turned that knife into the police, but has never heard anything back about it. Which I'm like, damn it. Like, because I don't think the police are helping. So they also were able to get into that house after the guy left, and they took some bloody carpet that they know was blood on it. I think the police still have that. Nothing came out of that. And then the Missing Maura Murray podcast, they were able to get into that house, and they got some blood on some wood paneling that they did test, but it was like 15 years later and there wasn't enough. It was just too degraded to find anything. They did find that there was like male DNA, and there was 2 different DNAs, but one was for sure male. One they didn't know, was unclear. It's weird.
Yeah, weird.
In an effort to breathe new life to the investigation, the FBI released a progression photo of Maura February of this year, 2024. I don't know if that makes any difference. I really don't. I don't think so. Tragically, Maura's mom died 5 years after Maura went missing on Maura's birthday, May 4th.
She's a Taurus, just like us.
I know, 2 days before me. Her sister, Kathleen, also had passed away on Thanksgiving Day, 2021. Fred, Freddie, Julie, and Curtis continue to look for Maura. Fred is 80. He is just the best dad. Like, he is relentless on finding out what happened to his daughter. Julie, she says someone knows something, and I believe her. She thinks that Maura probably turned down the bus driver. and didn't know that AAA, like that she couldn't make the call yet. She was like, probably like, I'm going to make it. But then once she realized that she had no cell service, she headed out on foot. And then the next person willing to help her cost her life. Julie didn't really say cost her life, but she said she probably went with the person that came up next and that she trusted the wrong person. And I mean, but I think it's safe to say that if that happened, she's no longer around.
Yeah.
And it also shows, like, she also said that, you know, Maura felt really comfortable there. Like, that was her place. And so the fact that she went there with her family and she felt comfortable and she felt like it was a safe place, and it is a safe place, right? That she maybe did get in the car with somebody, or maybe it was those three. And she was like, oh, look, they're young and like my age, cute guys. Like, sure, you know, like, yeah, take me to the liquor store so I could call the police or whatever it is, you know?
Or Israel Keys.
Or it, and I mean, yeah, wrong place, wrong time, man, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, just remember, he used to drop off these kill kits in like buckets around the country and bury them and not come back for them for years.
Yeah, that's
so he could just do
weird.
it like without a trace. And
Well,
he knew that his whole thing was he did not have an MO so that they couldn't
find him.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this. Like, okay, so say it was him.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't know that she's just going to be like this random girl is going to be walking on this random street and in a matter of like minutes.
Yeah, but he just drove up and down the street. He did that all the time.
He did?
He killed there's only a couple people he copped to, right? Because he used that as leverage, because at the time when he was being interviewed, he was like, I'll keep giving you this stuff, but he didn't want his daughter in Alaska to find out. So he was like, you got to keep it out of the press. And then he ended up taking his own life.
Yeah.
You know, they did get to ask him a couple of questions. And I do remember that the couple that he admitted that he killed, he said that there was no rhyme or reason. He just drove by their house. He noticed they didn't have dogs, so we picked them.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, I mean, then I guess it's possible. We will never know.
Well, let's hope we do know at some.
If it's Israel,
him, then we will never know.
No,
but
that's what
yeah,
I'm saying.
Let's,
if it's him, we would never know. But yeah, I do think, like, listen, the time frame is very short. So she, to me, I mean, I listen to another podcast. They think that she just like walked down in the woods and thought, I'll come back later, because she didn't want to get caught by the cops. They think she was drinking while she was driving to wherever she was. And that when she got in the accident, she was like, oh shoot, I'm already on probation. If I get caught, I'm going to be real fucked.
Yeah.
And maybe when Butch was like, yeah, have you called anybody? She was like, shoot, he's going to call the police. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And then,
I can see that.
And then maybe froze to death in like the woods.
But then they would have found her remains by now.
I think so too, because they have had tons of search parties after. But maybe not. Maybe the woods are crazy. But she wouldn't have gone that far in the woods. You know, you're not going to be like, I don't think so. A 21-year-old girl, you're maybe hiding from the cop for a minute and then going back on the road to find like a liquor store or a grocery store or something. Mm-hmm. But there are bad people. You know, one of my friends here, some drunk, drugged out guy in front of our neighborhood stopped and tried to get her in the car the other day.
Really?
Yeah.
Some crazy lady in a Range Rover went bat shit. It is all over the like locals, Facebook, moms groups and everything. I mean, she drove, going the wrong direction.
Oh,
she drove off in this field. It was 6:30. It's still light out. People were scared.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Anyways, check us out on Thursday. We have Patreon. Gretchen did a bonus crime last week. It's a really good one. If you haven't checked it out, go to the Clink Clink Club if you listen on Apple. Go to Housewives of True Crime bonus on Spotify, or you can go to patreon.com/Housewives of True Crime. Also, use the code Clink at fivecrimes.com, FIVE crimes.com. We will give you the best product for the best look, I promise. And I think that's all for today. Have a fabulous week. Clink,
Clink, clink.